part of my original thought a few minutes ago was related to how important of a season this is for Oklahoma, and it's very bizarre because typically when you look at how big a season is, it's whether or not Oklahoma has an opportunity to win a national championship or get into the playoffs or anything like that. But it's not necessarily. It's one of the few seasons like last season where the expectation. Now, I know there's always going to be some expectations, and to a certain degree, some unrealistic expectations that Oklahoma's going to make the playoffs and challenge for a national championship. This roster's probably not playoff material just yet, right? But I think with this team going,
it kind of depends on how it shakes out. But yeah, I agree with you. Yeah,
yeah.
I don't think that they're ready for the playoff if they were to get in it. So yeah.
But going into the SEC, I mean, it's critical for this team to have a bounce back year in some capacity. I mean, what that means from a win perspective, can certainly be debated. But I think at a minimum, you really like to see this team get to an 8-win season this year because, and I just and I don't think necessarily this is going to happen, but just if Oklahoma goes, let's just say 7-5 in the regular season. There will be in for Venables. I hope this doesn't happen. He's going to be squarely on the hot seat at Oklahoma, and it's not the right way that you want to go into the SEC from any perspective. You want to look
they
at.
Will have been calling for his head for a month by then. You know what I mean? They will have been calling for his head for a month by then.
Yeah, absolutely. Easy. So, it's a big year. They're always big.
They're spoiled. As Oklahoma fans, we are spoiled rotten, and that's the thing is that when you think about it, and most of these kids that they're recruiting, they don't know in Oklahoma that wasn't at the top of college football, somewhere around the top of the college football, and I don't even think that 8-4. I'm with you on that. A perfect cracker. These guys with this schedule. They leave Oklahoma 3 times. Once is to Cincinnati, once is to the Cotton Bowl, play Texas, and once is to BYU. Now, can you see them losing the BYU game? Yeah, they've never beaten them, and it's only been twice, but they lost both games, and this is in Provo, which is a tough place to play. Cincinnati, they should win that, I would think. The rest of their, the games that – you've got 2 teams that you lost to last season that you don't even play in Kansas State, which they've beaten Oklahoma 3 out of the last 4. That's probably a great thing. It seems like they just have their number. And then, TCU, I still feel like TCU, I think they're going to be good. I don't think they're going to be anything like they were a year ago. I think a hangover kind of happens when you get 67 hung on you. I just think it does. And they lost all those guys that were super senior types, whatever. I've been saying this a lot. I just think they're going to have a hangover. That one's at home as well. Then you have you don't play Texas Tech. Also, they should have won that game too. But in any event, they don't play these guys. And, do you expect them to lose 2 in a row to Texas? Could they? Yes. Should they? Probably not, because me and Mark talked about this the last time I was on, was that 7-win Sark is 7-win Sark. He'll find a way to screw it up. As good as they should be. I have a hard – I think 8-4 should be their floor. And really, they should be playing for – whether they win it or not, I don't know, but they should be playing for the Big 12 championship. When you look at this team and the way it kind of shakes out, they should be a lot better. The only thing that's unproven to me is that receiver room. And then, of course, you want to see what they did in the spring game kind of come to fruition in the regular season as well. But the schedule sets up really nicely for Oklahoma. I don't see how you don't at least – I have a hard time finding 4 losses, to be honest with you. I can see them losing a lot of games. I can't see them losing them all. You know what I mean? That's just kind of where I'm at. And I don't want to overdrink Kool-Aid because we did this last year, But I do think that, yeah.
Yeah, I think to your point, Jason, I think the schedule sets up very, very well for Oklahoma this year. I think there's a lot of, as you mentioned, absolutely. There's some opportunity, much more opportunities to be successful early on in the season, right? And I think too, I was guilty of this myself, and I think Mark and I both, I think, we're on the same page on this. When we watched this team play against Nebraska, okay,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, this defense is much better than it's been in the past.
Oh
Like,
gosh,
it's
I
headed in the
felt the
right
same way,
direction.
man. Yeah.
But then
Yeah. Oh.
it just went the opposite way. So yeah, I'm with you, and I struggle with floors a little bit, just because if you get 3 or 4 really key people as part of this team go down with season-ending injuries, then your floor, I mean, your floor lowers considerably, right?
Sure,
So,
sure. Well, barring that, but I don't think that's on Venables if that happens.
sure,
If
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
start
No,
losing folks, then as
yeah,
much as Oklahoma fans have a hard time sometimes, staying in reality, most
yeah,
of the folks in our audience isn't like that. I know that. I mean, they there's a few that are a little pricklier than others, but that's all right. And I get it. And I mean, like I said, and I mean, we had a guy on our show last night that was talking about, listen, I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid, and until they show me, I don't believe it. And that's fair. That's fair. After what you saw last year from the defense, what I would remind people, and this is something that a couple of guys that are in the audience probably right now have said a lot, is that no matter where Brent Venables has been, that first year has been tough defensively.
yep.
The second year, they're a little better. Year 3, they are hunting. And I think that this is kind of the way I mean, they're doing the same thing. They know that yeah. Listen, I agree. I think that just what Perfect Cracker said, these guys are going to figure it out. And he didn't have a top 10 defense for 8 of his last 10 seasons there for nothing. The first 2 seasons were a little tough.
Right.
But once they got it going, and they weren't getting all 4 and 5 stars there either, by the way. Isaiah Simmons was a 3.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, these guys they know how to identify talent. It doesn't necessarily have to be a 5-star guy. I honestly, myself, I like that he is sticking with this is his culture. This is all about his culture. And if you bend on that a little bit, then all of the kids are going to think that they can bend. And that's not what you want. That's when you start running into issues. One of the things that he said in that article that I really liked is, I want people to know that this is hard. It's going to be hard every day here, but there's something good that comes out of it at the other end. If that's what you're recruiting with, is this is going to be a tough place to come, and they still want to go. And how many guys you hear all the time say, I would run through a wall for Coach V, just because they love him like that. And he chews them out. He goes crazy, frothing at the mouth and freaking out on the sidelines. I mean, that's just who he is. But, I think that you have to stick with it. You just have to do it. And again, and I think a lot of it has to do with Lincoln Riley. These guys weren't – a lot of it's that scar tissue. They haven't been in the room with these guys before for a long time, since Venables left. And so you don't have as many of these kids. Like I said, Gerald McCoy was like the last big-time defensive tackle that they had there. You know what I mean? It's or maybe there was another one in between there, but not that I can remember.
Yeah, and I think I want to go to one of the things that you'd mentioned. I heard Teddy Lehman say this last year, and he hit the nail on the head. Defensively, you'd mentioned scar tissue, and so defensively, and he used the word PTSD. Same thing, same idea, right? Yeah. He's in what he. I mean, obviously, he has more access and inside the program than either of us. But he had mentioned that he thinks that this defense just has some massive PTSD to get over, because what happened and what tended to happen towards the latter part of the season was, Oklahoma would. Early on in games, there were certain games that they would play well defensively, right? But when one bad thing happened, they gave up a touchdown, they gave up a play, and then they just allow it to completely snowball. And so I think if they can get out of their own way to a certain degree, and I think the good thing is, as we've talked, they've got some new blood on this defense in terms of not only coaching staff but player turnover as well. So you have to expect, to the point that you made a little bit ago, you have to expect a decent amount of improvement in this year, in year two. I mean, I say this all the time. Like these people didn't forget to coach overnight, how to coach overnight, right?
Yeah.
Like good coaches,
just like they didn't forget to recruit.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that. And Jimmy, thank you for that. Phillips, he was highly regarded. I remember that. Yeah, but I mean, he wasn't Gerald. But that being said, listen, I'm with you on that, and I think I've said a bunch of times, if they can do what they did, and I think that they're going to be pretty close to that. You should be pretty close to that. This second season, these receivers are going to know. I think as much of a part of the problem with the offensive side of the ball, and they were again, problem is a relative word because they were in the top 15 in the country. But I think a lot of the drops, a lot of the things, it was a lot of miscommunication because the receivers, the offense. I think people look at the offense and think it looks like Lincoln's offense. It's not Lincoln's offense. It's completely different. The terminology is different. The routes are different. They just do things differently. And I think that you're gonna be a little better, probably there. So all you really have to do on defense, you don't have to be top 10. If you're top 70, you'll probably win 10 games at least, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you just do what you did a year ago. So that's
I think so. And it's over the years, the complementary football has not been something over the last 7-10 years. It's not been something that this team has done really well at. And we've talked about how the limit, and I shudder to say this because every time we talk about this subject, it makes it sound like Dylan Gabriel's a terrible quarterback, and I don't mean it that way. But the limitations that Dylan Gabriel has at the quarterback position does not allow him to be able to. He's not that guy that's going to put a team on his back. So he needs that complementary football on the defensive side of the ball. So I think, to your point, if they're if Oklahoma's top 70 defensive team this year, I think 9 to 10 wins absolutely should happen, in a berth in the Big 12 championship game, without a doubt. Should be able to happen.
I think that's a fair thing. And again, I feel like, I don't want to go crazy with the floor talk or whatever, but I'm just telling you what I see is that, you were talking about what would be, if they didn't get David Stone, that they're going to freak out. Well, I think they're going to freak out if they don't win at least 8. I think that you don't win 8, it's problems. So it's and really, man, I think depending on how it all, I don't even want to think about what it would take for them to lose that many games. Because like I said, I can see 4 teams they might be able to lose to. I don't see that those 4 they would lose to all of them, right? Or they shouldn't anyway.
Sure.
And I think
this is how
you had 5 losses that I think Parker said this on your show one time. It was like mathematically impossible to lose all 5 of those games, again.
Yeah. So this is how I see this ceiling floor, which I see this term all over the place. I think it's a little ridiculous, but anyway, it's the terminology we like to use in the off season, and I get it.
Silly season.
But like Jason here, I struggle with the concept of a floor, and this is the reason why. And the statement I make is going to have like all sorts of people jumping out of their seats and telling me I'm insane, but just bear with me for a second here, because we went through college football every season. We could find 10 or 12 or 15 games, more than that, actually, that are double-digit upsets that nobody said there's any, during these floor and ceiling conversations, nobody pointed out this team could possibly lose to that team. So there's going to be
TCU. They were picked, 9th?
There you go. So
I get it.
That's going to happen. Now, does it happen to one team? No, it doesn't happen to one team. So
right.
Oklahoma's not going to go 2-10. But if you're going to ask me if you're looking at individual games, they could lose to any of these conference teams. In my estimation, they could lose to any of them. Any of the 9, they could lose that game. they could lose to SMU. So
Whoa.
is my ceiling 2-10?
Easy,
Well,
Mark. Easy.
is my floor 2-10? Well, I guess technically, but that is such an astronomical improbability that no, it's not.
Right.
So, like you guys, it's difficult for me to find 4 losses in here because I think on the flip side, I think the only team on the schedule that on paper is better than Oklahoma is Texas.
Right.
Now, I think that there's a number of teams that are capable. Going to Kansas could be difficult.
That's
Oklahoma State at home. Yes. There's a number of games there, but like they're a 75 to 80% win probability, like week after week after week after week. So do they lose to Texas and then trip up twice? Even if they trip up twice against teams that they're better than, they're 9-3.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think UCF. I mean, you think about Gus Malzahn. I think he's a heck of a coach, and they've got. Are they? It's something you said that kind of stuck with me from a couple of weeks ago. You said, "I'm not sure how these teams are. They've played power schools before, but not a Power 5 schedule.
Yeah,
an entire conference of it in a row. Yes. So how are they going to react to it? I think that BYU probably has a good opportunity to do some things. I think that that's going to be a tough one. The Kansas one scares me to death because it's, you've got Jalen Daniels. If he's healthy, they're scary, and I think Lance Leipold is probably one of the best coaches in the country that nobody really talks about. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he went from 2 wins to 6, and they won 6 or 7, and then they had won 6 in a row before he got hurt. I mean, I was like, this guy's in the lead for the Heisman early in the season, which was crazy to me, but he was. I think he's probably the best quarterback in the conference if he's healthy. That being said, I mean, should they win it? Probably. If they run the ball well, do some of the things that you need to do. I think Texas kind of showed the way to beat them was run the ball. Now are they going to be the same? Probably not. Oklahoma State, I know Cody loves them. I think that they lost too much to be able to be that good. Now, they have an easy schedule too, but even on the road, I don't think there's any way Oklahoma allows themselves to lose that last one before however many years until they play them again. I just don't, I don't think so. West Virginia, again, some of these games you could see them losing. TCU, I guess. I'm still of the belief that they're going to have a hangover, and I don't know. It's not that the quarterback part for me so much because I think their quarterback is going to be pretty good. I just don't know what they have around him. And I think you're going to have some scar tissue from that too. So I don't know. I feel like 9-3, 8-4. I feel like they should win 10 probably. They definitely
miss in the conference. You said Texas Tech. There's no Kansas State there.
Yeah, no K-State, no Texas Tech.
Wow.
Won't have to play either of them. And that's 2 losses right there that they had a year ago. Mm-hmm. And really, K-State's beaten them 3 out of 4 years, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's a gift. That's a gift for OU on their way out, to not have to play them.
You're looking at 2 of the top probably 4 teams in the conference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Caleb V. He said if they go 2-10, BV is going to be running his popcorn machine. I think you may be right. That may be the one way that they fire him, is if you had a catastrophic that bad. I just don't. I mean, I don't see that, but
I'll say 7-5 is the floor, and I don't think going 12-0 again, taking every game just individually. Could they go 12-0? Yeah. They can beat everyone on that schedule, but that's tough to navigate when you put in all the probabilities.
Yeah, Baylor was another one that they didn't. You're right. Perfect. Beat them last year, and actually beat them the last 2 seasons. Don't play them either.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 3 losses from a year ago. I think OU probably wishes they could play Baylor again this year, but I know they don't want to play K. I'm glad as a fan that they're not playing K-State. Maybe they get them in the conference championship game. when Texas doesn't win 10 games again.
Yeah. No, you're right. No, I mean, I think this is a perfect opportunity for this team to pounce with
Right.
what you had said with and Mark got on the screen here with missing Kansas State, Texas Tech, and Baylor specifically.